Cheat days.
What about them?
This is probably the grossest I've felt making a video.
Yeah.
Just like really gimmicky, and so many people ask like how long does it take to get back into ketosis? So I guess it's answering a question, but the question itself is irrelevant in my opinion.
We're making a video on it, so it's relevant right now.
Well, it gets asked a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really matters.
But like, I feel the same way. Like, I feel like it's a totally unnecessary video, and like, I feel like I'm giving in, or like I'm a sucker for making this video, right? We just want the views. If I think about it, in the beginning, I would have probably wondered the same thing, right? Like, we just started the keto diet. I'm not fully off of the carbs. Like, I miss cereal, I miss Snickers, and I'm like, well, if I eat one, what happens? Like, how long does it take?
So we're gonna do a cheat day. We did one last night. This is the next day.
Yeah.
And it was great.
We have the menu. It was fantastic.
The thing is, we've been doing this for 3 years, so our results are going to be atypical, not the same as someone who's just starting keto like a few months in.
Right.
Basically just doing some testing of our ketone and glucose levels to answer the question, how long does it take to get back into ketosis after a cheat meal? And I guess first off, should you do cheat meals?
Yes and no, right?
You got to run a couple questions through your mind. What's a sustainable diet for you?
How long has it been since you've started? Has it been like a week? And then you're like already like feeling like you need a cheat?
And like, are you pushing yourself a little bit? That's probably good because, of course, the standard American diet's extremely sustainable.
Right.
You just become fat, type 2 diabetes, die in the hospital at age 60.
Yeah, I think Joe Rogan said it best when I was listening to a podcast. He said sustainability is a lot more than people are willing to put up with.
Do we have cheat meals? Not really.
No.
This is our first cheat meal, I would say, in like, what, 8 months or so.
Really?
I can't really even think of our last one.
I would say this is the first one.
First one ever?
Yeah, when we've done like carbs, it's been strategically for carb cycling, right?
So I don't think we've ever had just like a spur of the moment cheat meal.
We still haven't.
This is planned.
This was super planned. So this was actually a Christmas gift. I knew December 25th, come January 8th, 2019, Matt and I are gonna go off plan. Not the entire day, but just for that dinner.
That's another thing. On plan versus off plan. I think that's even more important than cheat meals, yes or no? If you're doing a cheat meal once a month, just stick to that. Do that once a month, fine. As long as you're not spur of the moment eating donuts, that's when it's slippery slope and it's hard to really be on any kind of sustainable diet.
A day turns into a week. Once every 6 months for a special holiday, and you're still having success, you feel really good, and it makes it more sustainable, then absolutely something to incorporate into your lifestyle.
But of course, no cheat days is better than some cheat days.
Right. For progress, for weight loss, for health.
Everything,
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what we're doing in this video is we're testing our blood markers, ketones and glucose, in accordance with the cheat meal.
Yes.
The ketone testing, how accurate even is it? Not that accurate probably. So it's just kind of giving you like a wide range of what you're around.
Because we tested back to back last night and today, right?
Yeah.
And 2 different readings both times. That just put me in a place where it's like, it doesn't matter, right? I feel really good. It just reminded me, reassured me that like testing isn't a necessary part of your day to day.
So if you guys are unfamiliar with what ketone and glucose testing means, the ketone just kind of tells you how much ketones are in your blood. Higher is more. Glucose is your blood sugar. Your blood sugar climbs after a meal. So typically after a keto meal, mine will climb like 10 to 15 points. With a high carb meal, which I haven't had that often, I would estimate 30 to 50, like a lot higher basically. When your glucose rises really high, your ketones tend to drop soon thereafter.
Glucose is more immediate. So have a meal, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, you're seeing changes in the levels of your blood glucose. Whereas ketones, it takes a lot longer to kick in. So if you eat a donut, then test 30 minutes later and your ketones haven't budged, then that doesn't mean that the donut didn't impact you. It just takes a lot longer for it to affect your ketones.
So our pre-dinner testing, right before we left for dinner.
We got in a big fight first.
Yes, we did.
And then we tested, so that might have impacted the ketones.
That's true. A lot of stuff impacts your glucose and
Stress.
ketones more than just diet. So mine was 0.7 ketones, 86 blood glucose. That's pretty standard for me.
And then my ketones were 1.7 and my blood glucose was 66. Pretty normal for me. Probably usually a little higher blood glucose, but I didn't eat a lot before then, and I had like just woken up from a nap.
Let's talk about dinner.
Can we relive dinner?
So we don't have exact macros, which I guess is kind of unfortunate for this kind of a test.
But we can give a guesstimate afterwards.
Yeah, so most expensive dinner we've ever been to, $105 per person. Tasting menu.
Tip was mandatory, so we couldn't like pick and choose.
Yeah, so it was really like 120 per person.
That's it though?
I didn't know food could taste this good, honestly. I've never had anything like this before.
So I would have paid $500 for this meal. and been
That was really good.
extremely satisfied with that price.
It was at Staple House in Atlanta. It's the highest rated restaurant in Atlanta.
And it was our first tasting menu.
Ever, yeah.
So we'd never experienced like 10 courses back to back.
So the first thing was a caramelized yeast apple cannoli type of thing.
And it was served on a bed of pumpkin seeds, as you see in the picture, but
You
they
didn't eat the
they
pumpkin
immediately
seeds.
take it away. You can't eat them. And I was like, I wanted to eat them.
Second course, mind-blowing also, ribeye tartare with turnips and cashews.
God.
Third dish, little bit of a dud, bay scallops. It had like some oranges in it and truffle foam. Fourth dish, and we're not really getting off keto too much thus far. Like it's
No.
pretty low carb, except
Yeah.
for the first thing. Was some kind of fish, it's called cobia. I don't really know what that is. Sunchoke and finger lime. Best dish of the night.
On both accounts.
Yeah.
And I think it was me who made you realize how good it was.
It was just mushroom in like 6 different forms, 6 different layers of mushroom basically.
That's it. So it was totally vegan, and that's why I was more surprised.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you turn this into like something that I'm gonna love forever?
Second best dish of the night, the next one, cauliflower, and it had grated aged beef on top of it.
So good.
Then there was a beef tendon pork rind basically,
Oh,
and a
yeah.
chicken liver tart.
So the beef tendon pork rind was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I was very surprised. And chicken liver tart, I could have done without.
Yeah, that was the worst thing. It was almost bad to where I wouldn't want to eat it.
It had like a raw honey jelly
Mm-hmm.
on top of the chicken liver, so it just didn't go for me.
Grandma Lillian's potato bread.
So this was a third best of the night.
So good.
Oh.
It came with like a thyme butter.
Thyme oil. Grandma Lily just killed it.
Then there was aged duck, which was not the best dish.
No,
it was
but
like barbecue duck.
But it came with Grandma's potato bread.
Oh, that's true.
So that's the reason it was one of the best.
Kombucha.
Oh my gosh.
As like a little palate cleanser
Knocked
before
it out of
dessert.
the park.
And then the dessert was just the most mind-blowing thing. It was probably my favorite.
Oh.
It was pecan cake, apple, like, was there
Apple
apples?
crisps on
Apple
top.
crisps. So
Hey-
much texture, flavors.
Hey, ice cream.
So
and-
what does that mean, hay? Like made out of actual barn hay?
I don't know. But it was delicious. It tastes like more like a butter vanilla,
And then the last thing was just a little chocolate.
which looked like little rocks. And I was like, why is he giving us these?
Yeah.
But it was perfect.
So if I had to estimate the total carb count of the dinner, I would say between 150 and 200 grams.
Yeah, I'm gonna say more like 150.
Okay. So not crazy, not a crazy cheat day.
The bread was like this small. The dessert, everything was very small portioned, right? Because you're getting 10 courses.
So of course, everyone just kind of wants clear-cut answers, like, 12 hours and you're back in ketosis. A lot of variables here. How long have you been doing keto? How hard did you go with your cheat day? How much did you exercise in that time span? So it's hard to just really say the answer, and honestly, the answer doesn't really matter.
Right.
But we got home from dinner, tested our ketones.
This is 45 minutes after our last bite of food.
Whoa. 121 and low.
That makes sense. That's not even that high given the ice cream and the pecan cake. Why are your ketones so high?
Sometimes I swear this thing is just giving us random numbers.
Yeah, that makes no sense. Test again. Retest.
0.5.
So, I don't know. We had this conversation over dinner actually. Like, if you test back to back with the meter, it could give you two totally, like a 1.7 and then like a 0.5.
Let me do a retest. I think at least one pretty clear takeaway is you don't need to be putting a crazy amount of stock in the exact number that these tell you.
How do you feel?
Yeah, that's a bit more important.
I'm asking.
Oh, I feel actually kind of fine.
Yeah, me too. No headache, no fatigue. 1.4, so not too far off. My blood glucose was 121 and my ketones were 0.5.
Clearly see glucose elevated from dinner.
But ketones not like completely out of my bloodstream
Obliterated.
just yet.
My ketones were 1.7, my glucose was 115. So glucose is high, ketones are higher than before though, which I don't really know what to make of that. Okay, so the following morning we woke up, which is today, we tested again. Right when I woke up, got out of bed, tested immediately. My ketones were 0.6 and my glucose was 99. So a little bit on the higher end of my normal glucose range, ketones a little bit lower, but nothing crazy.
No.
I feel like I'm almost kind of recovered from the meal. I don't honestly think it impacted me much at all. So what did you get?
So I had 0.5 for my ketones and 83 for my blood glucose, and I felt great. Like I didn't feel like I had carbs the night before at all. No headache, no fatigue. I felt like I had a normal diet the day before. Right? Did you?
Yeah, pretty much. Your ketones were a little lower and glucose was a little higher though, right?
Than normal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Just slightly though. And then before the gym at around what, like 10 a.m., we tested for the last time just to confirm
Right.
that the ketones weren't continuing to drop and we were like back on the rise. Before the gym, mine was 1.0 and 105. And this is after I had a bulletproof coffee. So the glucose is definitely a little higher than I would like and then is typical. Ketones are 1.0 though, so clearly back in ketosis.
And then my ketones were 1.2 and my blood glucose was 83. So that's totally normal, totally standard. And again, I felt really good.
So to answer the question, how long does it take to get back into ketosis after a cheat day?
I think there's a couple things to consider. How long have you been doing keto? So are you like fully adapted at this point? Is your body just used to ketones for fuel as opposed to glucose?
I think that's probably the biggest factor.
Okay.
It's pretty hard for me not to be in ketosis at this point, no matter what my diet is like. I think it would probably take like a couple days to a few weeks to really mess
Shift.
with, yeah. Like I think of it as the same way of when I started keto, I was glucose adapted for 26 years, right? So now I've been doing keto for almost 4 years, so I'm really keto adapted. It's the same process of becoming fat adapted, just in reverse. That's how I think of it. So to become unfat adapted at this point, it would be like a week process of really eating high carb diet.
And one thing to point out is that it'll also kind of depend on how many carbs you eat in. So like we didn't eat like 500 grams of carbs, and that would have probably impacted us a lot more differently in terms of how we felt and our blood numbers. And then another thing to take into account is working out, fasting, like what you do post this carb meal. So working out and fasting are two things that are going to help your body utilize the glucose, get back into ketosis slightly faster. So those are things you can implement if you want to.
The answer, as with everything, is it depends. There's no easy answer. There's no just like, 2 hours, 12 hours. It doesn't really exist. I think the real answer though is, why'd you cheat in the first place? Was it planned? You just got to get a handle on your diet and work on that more as opposed to worrying about it after the fact and like starting the cycle of cheating, getting back in ketosis really fast.
So real quickly, why did we cheat?
Well, it all started when we watched an episode of 7 Days Out.
Which is a good
And
show.
they had a restaurant reopening and they were talking about all this fancy food and stuff. And I was like, I've never tried that. It'd be fun to
It was
try.
a tasting menu restaurant, Michelin star restaurant.
And I thought it would maybe help us with our food blog a little bit, give us some inspiration.
And I've also never done a tasting menu, and I want to experience life. Like, I'm not tied, I'm gonna die with keto. There's more to life than eating perfect foods every single day for the rest of your life. And this to me was a set of perfect foods not within my keto diet.
Well, you got to experience what there is in life.
So
right?
Another question is, would you do this with just like Krispy Kreme and McDonald's?
Some people, though, that's their thing. If Krispy Kreme is your tasting menu, then I can see that too.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That is our video on cheat days.
Yeah, what'd you guys think? What's your experience with cheat days? Do you do them? Do you hate them?
I especially want to hear from the people who are very anti-cheat and only about whole foods and pasture-raised and grass-fed stuff.
Yeah, maybe give like a constructive remark instead of just like, you guys suck, never cheat on your diet, etc.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about cheat days in general.
Thanks for joining us.